Okay, so here's your worksheet that I provided you with, and we're going to do three quick studies. I'm going to film it in real time so you can see what I want you to do and how to do it. And I'm going to start off with just a linear analysis of the value. This is the image. This image that I'm providing is from the same source that I provided last week, but I've blurred it a little bit less. I don't want you to worry too much about what it is or anything like that. I just want you to look at the shapes of the values. So the first thing I'm going to do is just do a linear layout of the darks and the lights. And it's not going to be real precise. It's just going to be a general idea of the shapes of the lights and the darks. So you can see that the darkest area, there's a dark shape right there that's kind of shaped like that. I'm just using the grid that I see. There's a grid imposed on this image. I'm using the grid that I see to just sort of help me eyeball where everything should go. There's a shape that goes like this. The lightest shape kind of does something like that, okay? So all of this up here is dark, this is dark, this should actually come down to here. And it kind of fits together like those kind of puzzles that you had when you were little. They had the big wooden pieces to them. There's this dark sort of wobbly area right there. Just kind of comes up like that. There's some more dark right here. There's some variations in the lights and darks right here, but it's pretty minor. So what we see is a lighter area right here. Sort of like that. Kind of a gray area that comes in right here. A darker area right here and right here. So this is sort of your middle gray. This is your light. This is your very dark, and very dark. Okay, you can see that I've zoomed in a little bit. We're going to work in the bottom left one, and in this one what I'm going to do is just analyze this on just darks and just lights. You can use whatever kind of material you want. What you have to determine is whether or not you're thinking of something as a light or a dark, and just have two tones in this, and you'll see what it'll look like once I'm done. So I'm going to use some pastels I have because that goes pretty quickly, and just the first thing I'm going to do is lay it out with a Sharpie so you can see the shapes of what I'm determining to be light and what I'm determining to be dark. So if it's middle, you have to determine whether it's better to see that as a dark value or a light value. So you're reducing everything to high contrast. So the first thing I'm going to do is say there's a dark shape right here, light shape that is budded by a dark shape right here. I think I went too far. And then bring it down. I think it's important to see this area is light, so I'm going to draw dark around it. I'm going to say that basically the light shape is something like that. So it's sort of like a, I don't know what that is, but anyway, so I'm thinking that as a light shape. I think everything else is pretty much in the darker range, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to take a dark piece of charcoal and or pastel and just draw around the light shape with my dark charcoal. I haven't taped this off because it's a study. We're all busy. You can tape it off if you want to. I may smudge it around with my fingers a little bit. But what I'm doing here is just separating the darks from the lights. Like I said, these are quick studies. They shouldn't take very long. You shouldn't sweat them too much. You just have to have a an idea of what you're studying each time. So the first time I was just studying linearly what the shapes of the lights and the darks were. Second time, I'm just saying everything that I'm not drawing on is in the light range, and everything that I am drawing on is in the dark range. Actually drew over a piece of light that I want to keep, so I don't know if you can see this. This is that eraser pencil I showed y'all. This area should be light. This area should be dark. So this is the general shape of my light. I can make it more specific if I want. And I know that this area is actually darker, but it's important to show the contrast of this area to that area. So if all I can work with is one dark and one light, then that's what I have. I may even want that right there. So your second study should be just as simple as that. For the last study, this one, I'm going to use pastel pencils. This is a gray pastel pencil. This is a black charcoal pencil. I'm going to work in gray, black, and white, and just one gray, one black, one white, and anything that's a variation, I'm going to have to decide, does it go to black, does it go to white, or does it go to gray? If you don't have variations of charcoal pencils or pastels, maybe you have some Prismacolor pencils, maybe you have different colored construction paper that you could do this with, or you can just make your grays with charcoal or graphite or whatever, and just have a middle gray value, a white of your paper, and the darkest that your drawing instrument will get. Like I said, I just happen to have these, so I'm going to use them, and they move pretty fast. That's what I like about them, and I just want you to understand that choosing the right instrument for the speed and the detail that you want, that's part of learning how to draw. I'm going to start with the gray because it's not so dark that if I overshoot an area, then with a black mark, then that'll interfere with my drawing. So what I'm going to do is just kind of lay everything out with a gray pencil. Not being too fussy with it, just kind of laying out my shapes because we've already kind of thought about those. Don't want it to be too, like I said, too worrisome. When you're studying, you should think quickly and loosely and just let it flow. Now there's also this shape. We didn't draw this before, but since we're working with gray, we can draw this shape. Kind of goes up to this corner. So dark shape to the right of that. Dark shape right here that kind of comes out right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, my black marker, and draw the black stuff a little more carefully. So this is just a different kind of analysis. When you're doing studies, you're analyzing, you're trying to learn something about what it is you intend to draw. So now I've got, this is my lightest area, this, and this are really my darker areas. There's a dark area right in here. I'm just gonna fill it in. Just gonna fill in some dark right here. need to get this area right here. I drew it a little off, so okay though. Like I said, it's a study. We're not stressing too much on it. This top corner feels like it needs to be dark. Looks like it needs to be dark. This is dark right here. It needs to be dark to about right there. Maybe just those two squares right there. So then the next thing, I feel like I've kind of laid my darks out. That's okay with me. Then I'm going to take my gray pencil and say, what's gray? I feel like this is gray. I feel like that is gray. I feel like that is gray. I feel like all of this right here is gray. It's gray. More gray. More gray. Gray. Now, it's a little gray right here. It's a little gray right there. This is gray. About right here. And I have to decide. This is kind of between dark and light. I want that to show up as dark. So I think what I'll do is make it dark. Just let it blend right there. And then what I can do, I can fill in with my charcoal. I can press hard. Or once I get enough charcoal on my paper, I can kind of blend it with my finger. Or if you have one of these, you can blend it with one of these. It's good for getting into the little sharp spots. The reason I'm blending it is because I just want a quick view of, in general, where my darks and my lights are and what their shapes are. Not what the shape of the things in this image are, but what the shapes of the lights and the darks are. It's, like I said, it's not exactly like the image we just looked at. I mean, this image right here, but I'm using that image as a model for this to tell me some stuff. Now, this thing is two-sided, and the other side has a little red on it, but let's see if I can't get that off. I'll just try to avoid the red part of it. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna blend in the gray and sort of flatten it out, because I just want you to see how the grays, how the middles, the darks, and the lights are laid out in this particular composition. So really, like right here, I have to decide if I want that part to stand out right here as lighter than that, and if I do, then I have to give it to the black, which is what I'm gonna do. Like this is too wide, so I'll thin it down some. And smudge that right there. Now, honestly, I could keep working on this and working on it and working on it and making it look more and more and more the way that I think it should look, but this is fine. This is what I want you to do. One, linear analysis of where your darks and lights and middles are. One, high contrast black and white, what your general lights are and what your general darks are. And then one where you break it down into medium, dark, and light, just flat shapes like I have done here. Not super precise either, just giving yourself an idea of what those shapes are and whether they belong to the dark area or the light area.